What I've been looking at is what's happening in secondary schools. What's happening in secondary schools with regard to model learning practice and what secondary school teachers are doing. And secondary school teachers are finding it hard to change. They don't know that really it is about what does it look like in a secondary school classroom. That's perhaps the secondary school single cell classroom in the Nelson block, and we're not going to be rebuilt for 2 years. We might not be rebuilt. I'm going to be teaching in this classroom. So how can I change my practice? And that's really what I've been looking at this year. It looks like a lot of different things, and I suppose really what I've been looking at is how do teachers get started? How do they go about changing their practice, changing what they do? And from a digital technologies point of view, I guess a lot of it is, obviously we can use digital technologies, and we can start to change how we teach. I guess we're still teaching the same kinds of things, but we can start to think about perhaps giving our students a bit more choice. I guess standing back a little bit and allowing them to kind of maybe co-create content. A lot of stuff that primary schools have been doing for a while, but secondary schools find it very difficult to move forward or get away from the assessment, because that always drives secondary schools. NCEA is a very powerful part of secondary schools, and for valid reasons. So that's one of the things that's always the questions that we get. Well, it's all right for primary schools, but what does that look like in secondary schools? How can we do that? Well, one of the things that they're doing, a lot of teachers now are perhaps have some platform where students can access their work, 24/7. So it may be, when you think about it, you've only got the students for 4 hours a week, but the learning doesn't stop after they leave your classroom. So there are teachers who have Moodle set up. They have Moodle courses set up. Students can access that. They have a Google Classroom. They are putting their assessments online. They are giving lots of feedback. For example, I spoke to a teacher just recently and she talked about her history class. So they had an internal assessment. They use Google Classroom. They don't have devices. They've obviously got devices at home. And so the students are working on their assessment, and she said I would probably go and look at their work maybe 4 or 5 times and make comments using Google Classroom. And as they come back to class, I'll go back and also have the conversation with them in class. But the feedback is sort of perhaps for the 2 weeks of the internal assessment, and so the students are getting that feedback not just in class but also online and making some adjustments in their assessment. So she felt that was a really good way for her to give feedback and support her students when they weren't in her class. Well, you don't have to have a modern learning environment or a brand new school to change what you're doing in your class. And if you think about things such as personalisation or giving students agency and co-creating content, all those things can be done in your old style classroom. But you can do some things. If you were thinking about changing your environment, for example, you could change. You don't have to have the desks and rows. It's okay to change the classroom. Some people bring in not the beanbags, but they might bring in sofas, they might have chairs, they might have bookshelves. They do all sorts of things with their environment to start to change it, to make students give a little bit of choice of where they might sit. Perhaps because of the way schools are structured, secondary schools, they're very siloed, I suppose, is the word that we use. They are departmentalised, and so it can be quite difficult for teachers to maybe find out what other people are doing in their school, or even in other schools. So I think that teachers who want to find out what's happening, I think they need to get out into the world. Now, it may be that it's not possible for them to go visit lots of schools, but they could visit some schools. They could visit some teachers in their own school it doesn't have to be in their own department. They could be cross-curricular. Go and look at, if they're an English teacher, go and look and see what the science teacher's doing, if they're doing something interesting. They could get connected. They could be on Twitter. They could, so that they're actually starting to find out what other people are doing in their school, maybe in their city, maybe go to something like EduCamp, and maybe even just out in the world by getting onto Twitter, which is a great way to be connected.